Welcome back to the first Shankly sessions, the Liverpool podcast we're bringing you as part of the upper tier on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show will be available on Anchor, and you can contact us on Twitter at Sessions Shankly. Joining me tonight, of course, my red men from the upper tier on the Monday mashup to kick off a great Liverpool show starting throughout the summer and on into the new season. But today we're going to take a look back. We're going to do a season review of Liverpool. Craig, thoughts initially this season?
Roller coaster of emotion, highs, lows, and ended with, eternal happiness. It felt like winning a league title. That's how much the top four meant, because it was basically gone. I don't care if people can slag about celebrating the top four. I'll gladly celebrate it till the cows come home. I'm absolutely delighted. The season that we've had and getting top four at the end of that shows how big top four is to us after that calamity, disaster on and off the pitch. So, as a whole, absolute roller coaster. But in the end, I'm more than satisfied. I'm thoroughly delighted.
Absolutely. Also joining me, Dean, my partner from the transfer show. Dean, how we doing? Initial thoughts, European royalty.
Yes.
Just want to say before we go any further on our fourth Shankly Sessions podcast, can we all just take a moment, every Liverpool fan that'll ever come across, just have a little laugh at Everton there. Oh my God, the best season they've had in about 30 years, and they still finished double digits behind Liverpool. And the great saviour, Carlo Ancelotti, today makes his return to Real Madrid. A rumour has a big Sam is going to take over there and steady that ship. Back in your buck, off, lads. But
I tell you, it's more like a manager's transfer window than a player's one, isn't it?
We only talked about this on the transfer show, but back to our season, what we're here to discuss in our first ever Shankly Session podcast. Man, I touched on it about 2 weeks ago. Like, this season has been absolutely mental. We've felt every single emotion in life this season. Anyone that's got a like, that's a Liverpool supporter that feels that passion that us three do. Like, we've had everything. We've had ups, downs, highs, lows, deaths. That euphoria of Alisson Becker's goal is something that I will take to my grave with me. It may only be one goal, but the season that was in it, what that man went through, I'm getting goosebumps even talking about it now. It's just like, this season was just, it was magical because we finished in the top four. We experienced everything. Like, it was just like one of those constant roller coasters. But as Ian touched on the last matchup about the season being a 38-game season, when it came down to it, those last 12 fixtures, we got 10 wins and 2 draws, and we finished third. It's just what Craig said, absolutely mental.
Yeah, well, the season, if we go back to the start, we won't talk about the Community Shield because we leave that to other fan bases, not Liverpool fans. We don't talk about the Community Shield.
The Audi Cup.
We kicked off the season against Leeds, welcoming Leeds back to the league in what I can only describe as an absolute belter of a game.
Yeah.
Well, what was you thinking, Craig? 4-3.
Talk about an advertisement for the Premier League. Don't look any further than that game. And go over every single game of the season. You don't even need to look at another. There's the advertisement there. If you want attractive, fast, end-to-end football. Talk about, like, the three of us especially have a soft spot for Leeds. We rate them highly. We love them coming back up. They should never went away. And they came to Anfield on the opening day, and we knew, they're going to kind of give it their all. But Jesus Christ, did they give it their all? They basically level playing field. It was back and forth. It was great. It was outstanding. It was attacking on both ends. It could have went, slobber knocker fest, and I'm happy that they'd be happy with their season overall. I think, they find great solace in where they finished. They didn't change for anybody. They matched the big boys in nearly all their fixtures, I'm sure, as well. And credit to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great advertisement.
safe to say, Dean, when a scoreline is 4-3, we're not going to be on the losing end of it, are we?
Take me back to that RB Salzburg game in the Champions League there. But that game, talk about sending a paperless memo out to the rest of the Premier League that, look, we might have lost 4-3, but we're really going to give it a go this year. And fair play to Leeds, because they didn't stop or didn't shy away from their style of play. They really went hell for leather, all gung-ho in every single game. Just another thing on that game, Mo Salah, captain in the fantasy football team with a hat-trick. Yes, Mo.
Yeah, so then, we started off the league. We beat Leeds 4-3. We beat Chelsea 2-0. We trashed Lincoln in the Cup 7-2. We beat Arsenal 3-1. And then we drew with Arsenal 0-0 in the EFL Cup. And then we go to Aston Villa. We go to Villa Park. And there's this sudden 7-2. And we're paused. And we're going, where did this come from? What happened here?
That was just one of those games where, like our season, anything that could go wrong in that game went wrong. Like, we ridiculous OGs, defections, the 2 goals we scored were cracking goals. Like, you know what I mean? Good counter play and everyone getting involved. And yeah, I always said, the way we played for 2 years, like, you know what I mean, it took its toll on people. That was one of those games where everything just caught up on us. Somebody was bound to give us a thrashing, but to lose 7-2 away to Aston Villa, no disrespect to them, but I think the whole fan base, I think anyone involved with the club, players, fans, everybody was just flabbergasted. It was one of those where you were just, even the following morning when I woke up and if Liverpool get beaten, especially if it's a bad performance, I hate reading the papers, because you just get, those that jump on the bandwagon, the Klopp, the rock and roll football is coming to an end and all, just complete garbage. But the following day, when I picked up the paper and I always look at the sports, and it was just a picture of Van Dijk with his head in his hands. I was like, fuck me, man, we lost 7-2 to Aston Villa yesterday. But the strange thing is, Noel, before, up to like Christmas, we'd only lost 2 games, and one of them was a Champions League game. So that, like, come here, look, all credit to Aston Villa. They came out and absolutely trashed us, but that was just a blip. When Liverpool hit when the tires busted, it was after Christmas. We were top of the table at Christmas. So, that was just a blip in the roads, but it was a sense of what's going to come further on down the season. So, yeah, let's hope something like that never happens again.
Yeah. Next game, Craig, we moved on. It was Everton. And this was a pivotal moment.
October 17th. Fucking hell.
It's like 9/11 for Liverpool fans.
Do you know what? It boils me blood to even think about that. Not only with the derby, but with the injuries that I believe the referee a few months later says, you know what, actually, that was a red card. Are you for real? A person who's nearly at the losing basically has lost his whole season on that. Not even a booking, not even, a thought and process of it. And you then decide a few months later when everything is settled and it's safe to say it, oh, do you know what, actually, that was a reckless tackle. It's like, are you actually serious? Like, we lost Virgil because of that. And I believe, was that the game when Mane was wrongfully VAR'd?
Yeah, I think Sadio's thumbnail was offside or something.
Hell, on top of that, it was just Everton were celebrating like they'd fucking won the fucking league with a draw. As they do.
That's what
pisses me. Yeah, exactly, Dean. That's what boils me blood. All the shit that we suffered in that game, and they knew they shouldn't have got jack shit out of it, and they took the draw and ran with it, and were delighted, celebrated like it was the best thing ever.
It was the smugness of Everton. You look at Everton. If Everton don't win a trophy, which they probably won't for the next 35 years, their 2 biggest games of the season are Liverpool Football Club, right? That's how much of a small club they are, that their biggest game of a season is a derby. Now, don't get me wrong, when Gerrard was in the team, when Carragher was in the team, when Fowler was in the team, the first fixture they looked at because they had family invested in it. You know what I mean? Looked at Everton team now, there's very few Scouts lads in it, you know what I mean? So it's a kind of a way of like, let's get the foreign lads invested and all. But the way they celebrated that game, how smug Pickford was after doing that to Van Dijk. You had Richarlison coming out
Thiago.
and
Richarlison and Thiago, yeah.
you know.
Fucking hell.
And then the way they celebrated that victory in Anfield, you imagine if they won a trophy. But that, as Craig said, that was the turning point for their season. You know what I mean? And that for Van Dijk to lose a whole season of his career in his prime, like we don't know a way Van Dijk is going to come back. He could come back. He could be 2 or 3 yards short of pace. You know what I mean? It's just it's a waiting game, and prayers and thoughts and hope and everything is back to the way it was before he finished. But yeah, I always hated Everton. But that was just kind of the nail that drove into the coffin. It says, I will never respect anything that club does.
You know what's funny? I nearly felt worse in that game than the 7-2 with Villa. I felt worse because I knew that was a freak result. I felt worse with this because every single detail went completely the wrong way. And they took a draw like they had earned a draw, which they never fucking would ever earn jack shit out of us. They never will.
Yeah, I think, we moved on from that game then. It was such a letdown, really, when you think about it. But we move on from that game and we put together 5 very good results, winning away to Ajax, winning away to Atalanta. And then we also beat Sheffield United, Midtjylland, and they were the 5 games. Yeah, they were. Yeah, so they were really good results, even though we had lost Virgil, And at that time as well, I think we had lost Thiago as well, hadn't he? He had gone out from the Richarlison.
He had gone out from that tackle. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we go to City, and we draw 1-1. And then another good result. Then we beat Leicester 3-0. So we're still playing really good. You know what I mean? Like the season hasn't really kind of folded. Then we had kind of a bad loss at Atalanta at Anfield, 2-0. Which wasn't a great result at all. And then we drew with Brighton, which was a terrible result.
Oh yeah.
At the Amex. Yeah.
But again, bounce back, a good 1-0 home win against Ajax in the Champions League, and a 4-0 win against Wolves. I'm not sure at that stage whether Wolves had lost Jimenez at that stage or not. I'm not too sure, but that was a big result.
It was after. It was definitely around November-ish time. I think December. November.
They lost them pretty. Yeah. It wasn't that far into the season. Yeah, it was really.
That was a December fixture. Then we had a draw with Midtjylland away, which was a very poor result. The match I can remember it, like just no one showed up. It was just terrible, And then
that was kind of a sign of what was to come. That Brighton game and that Midtjylland game was a sign of the win.
Well, you see, now we were starting to feel the effects of losing Virgil. We had lost Thiago and we had lost Joe Gomez. And we were sort of playing around with formations. I think we went on a run of not playing the same defensive setup for how many games. Fabinho had dropped back in there. I think at one point Jordan Henderson had dropped back in there as well. And it was just crazy. Our midfield was just wide open, then we get a bad draw against Fulham. Again, terrible result.
Yeah, fuck's sake. We were lucky to get a draw out of that, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. But then a good win, a 2-0 win or 2-1 win against Tottenham, and also a 7-0 win against Crystal Palace, which was an outstanding game, that Crystal Palace game. Every single, so different to our season, because every ball we kicked that day, every pass just linked up, every ball hit the back of the net. It was just a great result.
That was the game that Minamino was absolutely flawless.
And then he got fucking nothing after that.
Talk about like going out and trashing Crystal Palace 7-0. That was almost like, right, fans, gather around, let's have a big party fiesta, because after today, it's not good times, unfortunately. Because that was just the start of the crash.
So then we move on. Big Sam gets appointed West Brom manager, the saviour, but it didn't happen. Not this time. But we drew 1-1 with them, which was, again, terrible result. And I just remember after the match, Allardyce being so sneery about it and everything and all. It was really poor taste, and
that's his career. That's all he has.
Horrible. And then we went up to Newcastle to a horrible 0-0 as well. And then lost to Southampton. I remember we went down to Southampton and we lost. We lost 1-0. And I remember Hasselhout was on the pitch. He was in tears because they had beaten us. And I was there going,
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we just so many games. Our midfield was so open. Players in the wrong
We are
position.
vulnerable.
We were so vulnerable. And these people, like, knowing that we were missing so many players and, you know, that we were doing our best to cling on as best we could, like, just celebrating so smugly up in our face, you know what I mean? It's...
No, about that period, Noel, and we'll touch on it like at the end when we finish, like when we move on to like our highs and lows of the season. That period where we lost those 4 or 5 home games on the bounce, and you know, going to Southampton, like drawing against Fulham and all. We started probably around mid-January saying that Klopp needs to play Fabinho in the middle of the park, and he just wouldn't take. It was almost as if it reminded me of Brendan Rodgers. We're going to do it my way until it works. And I said, I was starting to lose my mind at this stage, and I was saying, playing players out of position, i.e. Henderson or Fabinho as centre half, okay, doing that is great short term. Doing it long term is only going to lead to massive problems, which it did.
Yeah.
And we got lucky that he finally realised that if we play Fabinho in front of the 2 boys, even if they're inexperienced, he's going to shore up that hole. You know what I mean? And like, that's my highest point of the season was when Fabinho went back into that hole in front of the defence. Because I believe if me and you had played centre half for Liverpool, with him in front of us, we probably still would have got top 4. He's that good. You know, he really is that good.
Yeah.
If we'd have signed him for 110, 120 million, he'd be being lauded as the best midfielder in the world for what he's doing. For me, he's on a par with N'Golo Kante, if not slightly better. Kante, the spotlight is on him because he's won a World Cup and because he's won a Champions League and because he's won a Premier League. Fabinho is up in the top 3 players of what he does in the world, and I would argue that with anybody. So if anybody thinks differently, I'd gladly sit down and have an argument with you, and I know for a fact I'll win it. He proved in the second part of the season what he's grade A, 100% the best at, and he showed it to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he went back into the midfield, it wasn't a coincidence we put 10 runs together. It was not a coincidence. You know, he's the engine, he's the scream. He's there's nothing like him. You know what I mean?
Plus, Craig, he done it without Henderson there as well. So can you imagine next season Henderson is there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like he knows how the move is going to play out before it has played out. So he positions himself where to be. It's fucking insane. Like you can't buy it. You can't put a price on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You cannot put a price on it. Like.
So then we moved on. We moved on to the FA Cup where we put Villa out. We beat them 4-1 in the FA Cup. And then we sort of ground out a really bad 0-0 against United on that Super Sunday, 17th of January. It was terrible game. Really,
it was a bleeding dirt game. It was. Yeah.
So then we go back to Anfield, and this is a pattern all season where it's really Anfield that had let us down. You know what I mean? And Dean mentions on so many podcasts this season the difference that the crowd makes and the cop and that noise. Just Anfield.
It's spot on.
And I know every team had fans missing, but as we say, for us boys as Liverpool boys, this is a different. It's a different level.
Noel, teams going to Anfield with no fans was like them having an extra player. We talk about the fans being the 12th man. Nobody feared us going to Anfield without fans. That was the problem, and we had that in ourselves. That, you know, if we go a goal down, or the longer it goes and 0-0, or even if we score, you could see it in the players. They didn't have that. Look towards the end of the season. Look, that one game on the last day of the season with the fans there, that massive difference it made. But the teams that the opposition coming to Anfield may as well have had an extra man on, literally had an extra man on the pitch because they just didn't fear us. Yeah,
so then we moved on to 2 really bad results. I mean, the 1-0 defeat to Burnley at Anfield was just... And again, you nearly had to punch up in the tunnel with Klopp and Dyche. And then, it was just such a low point for us in the season to lose to Burnley at Anfield.
It was just, it was the same pattern, swinging balls into fucking absolutely nobody, no plan B, no desire. You know, it's just a continuous fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and, you know, hats off to Burnley as well. Ben Mee that day had an outstanding game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, they, you know, they played really, really well. They played their game, and we got sucked into their game instead of playing our game, and that's really what
To
happened.
their game, yeah.
Then we go on to the FA Cup again. Defeat to Man United 3-2. Never nice to take, of course.
3-2.
Getting beaten by the rival. But then bounce back against Tottenham and West Ham with 2 real good 3-1 wins. And this is where we're kind of starting to think we might have turned a corner here. Maybe we could do something here. We're starting to see elements of things happening.
They were back-to-back away, weren't they, as well? They were both in London as well.
Yeah, it was the Thursday and then the Sunday.
There were so many false dawns come the turn at Christmas. You know, you'd have a couple of bad results, and then you'd have 2 very good performances, and then, as we'll allude to now, the next 3 fixtures, you know, it was everyone got the hopes up, or like, right, we're back in this, and then it was just a smack of a bus.
Yeah, the 1-0 to Brighton, the 4-1, the 4-1 to City was pivotal because we were made look very bad that day. Now, I mean, that really exposed us. And then the 3-1 to Leicester was the weirdest game ever because
I was sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go on.
I was in work and I had a United mate text me saying you should not be 3-1 down to Leicester. He said it's just a few moments of utter fucking chaos. He said you're 1-0 up, you're looking okay, and then just from what I was told, I was in work, but he said utter just chaos erupted.
Yeah, there was that 10-minute period. Yeah, it was just mad. But then again, we came back out then on the 16th on the Tuesday. Good win away to RB Leipzig, which is never an easy place to go. And then we lose again to Everton, 2-0 at Anfield. And that
as I alluded to at the very, very beginning, I think it just hurt even more the fact that it was Everton and how they celebrated, and the whole incident with Duncan Ferguson and Jurgen Klopp, and then the video came out of them celebrating in the dressing room. As I said, imagine if they actually won a trophy. It's just that smugness, you know. We just didn't turn up. We were in a little phase in the season where you kind of conceding goals and losing, it was just inevitable. Like, you weren't surprised, but even though you weren't surprised, you were still demoralised by it. That was a really, really low point in the season for me. We absolutely despise Everton Football Club. We've seen over the years the way they treat away fans when they're coming over to play Liverpool, opening builders early, planting the fans outside the grounds. But yet when it comes to Everton actually playing that club, you know, it's we hate you, this, that, and the other. But they, for a small club like Everton to hate Liverpool like they do, just that fixture really kicked. That just took the knife really into me, that fixture.
Well, at that point, we had Everton fans telling us that the table doesn't lie. And I 100% agree with them that the table does not lie. But yeah, then we moved on then to an away game against Sheffield United, which could potentially have been a bit of a banana skin because we were at a very low ebb at this point. But we went out and got a good 2-0 win. Obviously, Sheffield United were checked out at that stage. They were well gone at this stage, you know what I mean? But then we come back again and we get another 2 poor losses. Just when we think, you know, a little bit of hope. Chelsea beat us 1-0 and Fulham beat us 1-0. And this is the point being where you were coming on the podcast going, top 4 is done. Some of the fan base were even starting to question Klopp. But what people didn't know was what Klopp had gone through with the mother. And things like that. And also, you know, we were trying to find a way again to settle the defence and get the people in place that we needed to find some sort of a formation to get Fabinho back in that screening position. But then we go away. I mean, in fairness, in the Champions League, we had stood up in the Champions League as European royalty should. And we beat RB Leipzig 2-0.
Just back to those 2 games, the Chelsea and Fulham games. It was like Chelsea had turned the season with Tuchel and they were having a really good run. You know, that wasn't a surprise in any way. Like, look, we were losing games against Burnley, against Brighton, against Fulham, against, you know, Southampton. 1-0 against Chelsea, I found very flattering to us because I was expecting to go out and blitz us. But, you know, we talk about how bad it went. That was the last league game we lost for the rest of the season, that Fulham game. So, like, the turnaround, like, was so drastic. To go from that low of that Fulham loss, look, we got knocked out of Champions League with Real Madrid. We made them look better than they were, but the rest of the season, like, couldn't have went any more perfect, which we're going to get onto. But, like, as we touched on them two results, to go from that bad to the run that we went on was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, so we beat Leipzig 2-0. So then we rock up then 2 days before Paddy's Day, 15th of March. Wolves beat them 1-0. And that match, I believe, is a really pivotal match in the season. Because it's not easy to go there and get a result. And boy, we needed a result on the back of what had been happening. And then we push on then. We push on to, we get a little bit of a break. And then 3rd of April, we push on to the Emirates for that match against Arsenal, which was absolutely outstanding as a game.
Go down, Arsenal. Arsenal are always there for morale booster, aren't they?
But you know something? That 3-0 game against Arsenal didn't even tell the tale of that game. We were unbelievable. And this is where you see the formation coming back in again. And it was just, the gulf between the two of us was unbelievable. I remember listening to Arsenal fans going, enough is enough. The amount of people that wanted Arteta out. And we just, like, put them to the sword that day. And then
from minute one, we absolutely
we were on it.
Them.
Yeah. And that was when Arsenal, because if you look back before it, like, they were confident of playing us because of how bad we'd been playing. You know, to them they got us at a good time, and I believe that we just had no pressure. It all come out about Klopp's mother and all. You know, we had that little break, and I believe that Klopp had told us, "Look, lads, we're out of picture here altogether. No one's expecting anything from us. Let's go out, just play your game. Let's settle on that formation again, as you said, Noel." And that could have been easily 7 or 8-0. We went out and absolutely mopped the floor with them.
Yeah. I think it was around that time as well that Klopp had come out and he had, like, you know, he had turned around and said top 4 is too much now. He had even surrendered it himself somewhat in some of his press conferences.
He'd heard what I said and he completely agreed.
It was like the weight was lifted, though, as in, you know, let's just, as Dean said, let's go out and enjoy and express ourselves, you know what I mean? Play our game and just kind of go with it, like, you know?
Yeah, the two Real games, I know we beat Villa 2-1 in between both of those. But the 3-1 out there was just the weirdest game ever.
You know, it puts a bit of taste in my mouth because we didn't get off the bleeding plane that night, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was just
that result overly flattered them. They weren't a good Madrid side by any stretch of the imagination. And on paper, I thought we were going to do them in both legs. I'll hold my hand up and openly say that. I felt very confident of going through.
I was very, very, very confident I was.
100%.
And then the 0-0 at Anfield was just how that was 0-0.
If we got a goal, I think they would have crumbled if we did get the breakthrough.
And we had some real great early chances as well to get the breakthrough.
Couldn't put them fucking away.
You know?
That was the most frustrating night I've ever had as a Liverpool fan. We just missed, like, we also didn't have an alluded to the fact that come the turn of the year, I think we'd about 145 chances and we only scored about 4 goals, including a penalty. That night against Real Madrid, like that first chance, I think when Salah missed that, he didn't take the touch. I think was Salah, was it? Or Mane? Salah.
Yeah, Salah came in from the side.
Salah,
yeah.
I just knew straight away. I was like, this is going to be one of those nights. As I keep saying about Salah, if he has belief in himself, he'll score about 50 goals a season. But when he goes through them little moments of where he can take a touch, but he doesn't, or when he doesn't need to take a touch and he does, and it just kind of slows everything up. That night, I see all the parking bays and all that. That was just from that night alone.
So then we move on. This is a pivotal one, this Leeds game on the Monday, because if you remember back to the Sunday was the announcement of the European Super League. And everyone was kind of thinking, well, it doesn't matter now if you get top 4 because we're all heading off to the Super League. There's no relegation. Everyone qualifies, so who cares anyway? And we went out in that Leeds game. I remember in the first half, we had a really, really strong first half. Went in 1-0 up, but should have been more. Missed a number of chances. But the second half, we never came out at all, and Leeds just bullied us. And then in the end, I think in the 87th minute, they picked up and they got an equaliser. And then we were thinking again, here we go again.
Here we go. Yeah.
And then if that's not bad enough, then after the Monday, we move on to the Saturday. And we're playing Newcastle.
Oh, fucking hell. Jesus Christ.
And I have never experienced a game like it.
Fucking hell.
It's just, we had so many chances in that game.
No disrespect to Newcastle. I thought the floodgates were going to open after that Salah goal. No disrespect. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we scored early, you know, and got to about the 75th, 80th minute. We were starting to sit deeper in our own half. They were coming chance after chance after chance after chance. And I'm screaming at the telly, I'm saying, Jurgen, can you please just bring on an extra centre half? Just play 5 at the back or just get someone to drop back. We need to snuff out these chances. They scored that goal, it gets disallowed. And the funny thing about that is, when that goal got disallowed, I said, they're still going to score. And then lo and behold, the last kick of the game, and I'm looking at the play and I'm like, how has that ball gone from in their box to he's through on goal and scoring that equaliser? Yeah,
and in fairness, Mane had a great chance, if you remember, I think, of that game to make it 2-0, didn't he? And he missed it.
Just absolutely. As I said at the very start, we've witnessed absolutely everything imaginable in this season. I can't wait for the documentary to come out.
Yeah,
just this season.
So then we welcome Southampton to Anfield, and a good 2-0 win gave Hasenhüttl a reason to cry again, but not for the right reason.
Yeah.
Then we went out against a team that construed it to try and destroy our season and get us out of the top 4. First of all, the game was postponed because of a stadium invasion, which again, as far as I know, has gone unpunished. I can't understand it, breaking every rule in relation to COVID and the pandemic, near alone anything to do with football.
It was the only game they protested in all season. They've hated the Glazers for about fucking 15 years. And the one time they turned up the protest was against Liverpool because they played Leicester a week later, and the fans were out clapping everybody to the ground. It's like, imagine going to that extent to try and ruin Liverpool season, and you end up ruining your own season.
Yeah, true. But what an outstanding game, 4-2. At no point did we look in trouble, really. I know it had gotten back tight, but I mean, that was just an outstanding win.
We had a bit of bottle about us that day as well, has to be said. You know, it's never an easy place to go.
Bobby Dazzler, you know, when people get on his case, he pops up every now and then. He's popped up a couple of times this season with really, really important goals. He was outstanding that night. Nat Phillips was outstanding. Diogo Jota was outstanding. Just one thing that really got to me about that game was how Mo Salah celebrated the relief. That was every single Liverpool fan across the globe celebrated like that. He came out and made a promise in January that, look, things aren't going well, but I promise you we'll fight to the death. And, you know, those last few games, Mo Salah was all of us. He proved the point to a lot of people. Ian said it. He gets a bad rub of the green off the media, for whatever reason. Mo Salah is my player of the year this season. He's been my player of the year for probably the last 4 or 5 years. He's been absolutely outstanding. But how we celebrated that goal against Man United, and I turned around to my dad and I said, that's every single one of us tonight. Yeah. They're just a relief, you know, everything just lifted. I think it was at that point we all started to think, you know, still in with a shout here.
And not only that, that was the same night. Man United mathematically were still in with a shout as well, and they just tossed it away. So we had that week Paul Pogba talking about a title race, if you remember.
Yeah. That was the night, I think that was the night that I don't have any respect for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but that was the night I said to myself, if Alex Ferguson was still manager of United and there was still that mathematical chance of winning the league, there ain't no stopping him playing his full 11. You're getting paid over 250 grand a week. You're not tired. It's a mental thing. We're playing Liverpool. It's the biggest game of the season. Get out there, pull your socks up. I don't want to hear any shit about being tired, because if I do, I've kicked out Roy Keane. I've kicked out Yap Stam. I've kicked out David Beckham. I'll fucking kick you out too.
Yeah, I mean, it was terrible. I mean, he rested players against Leicester on the Tuesday, wasn't it? And then he played us on the Thursday.
The fact that Man United fans still want him as their manager, I'm all for it. Ole at the wheel for life, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Craig, we move on. West Brom.
Fuck me.
2-1.
I'm in Dundrum, right? I'm in Dundrum. I gave you a call. I knew we seen we gonna go down. I said, here we go. So I seen we pull it back then. 1-1. And I could see, I caught the second half. We're pushing. I'm in the Coles. I'm in my fiance's. They're not really big football fans, right? Have it on the phone. And I see Allison coming up, and I'm like, I wasn't thinking that of it. Like, who was it? You know what I mean? And the ball hits the net. And for some reason, I thought it was Phillips. And then I seen them hold him, Allison. And I just dropped me phone. I nearly fucking dropped it onto the tiles. I didn't know what to do. Running up and down the hall, and they were probably looking at me like I was possessed. I just didn't know what to do. Like, I was like, oh, you're right.
You probably...
I just couldn't believe it. Like, and I'm so happy for him because of, you know, everything that's happened on and off the pitch. It hasn't been a great year for him, but if anyone deserves it, that moment, he deserves it more than anybody else. You know
it's just mad, Dean. Like, I mean, forget about the fact that this was a goalkeeper. Such a header and a clutch. At first, I thought it was like a gaggle that he had fisted it in.
It was a rocket.
It would reminded me of Stevie's header against AC Milan, only he was a bit closer to the goal. But that was the day we had my mum threw a baby shower for my missus, and first thing when we get over, said to me dad, it was like, look, football in the sitting room, women out the back, the sun was out, it was a nice day. And obviously my dad was like, no football, so we're sitting out the back, we're having a few beers, so we had the match on my phone. Hal Robson-Khan, who scores, I don't think he scored in about 12 years in the Premier League, and I'm like, typical. So I was like, typical Liverpool. Here come Liverpool, get a player's morale up before the Euros, give them a chance of getting into the squad. Then obviously we scored to make it 1-1, and then it gets to about the 90th minute, and I just knocked it off, and I was just fuming. And my missus was like, this is their baby shower, do not let this ruin your day. And I'm like, you're always saying to me it's only a game of football. Only for it is your baby shower. I'm not going to say anything. The next of all, I just hear a roar. There's a house about 4 up from my mum's, and they're massive Liverpool fans, and just hear a roar. So I get the phone out, and I'm like, shit, Sky Go won't come on. So I'm on to live score, and it's just showing big chance, and I click on it. And next of all, I just see Allison's name, and I'm like, has he saved the penalty? And then my phone starts ringing. It's Niall, and I'm like, hello. And like, and I'm just like, even now, I'm excited like a little child. And I was like, so ran in, banged on the telly, and just there's Allison walking off the pitch crying, and I'm thinking to myself, only Liverpool Football Club do this. I just could not believe it. And it's the interview after it. The class of the man, you know, to thank Everton, to thank Man City after losing his father. It's just, as I said, like, we talked about this a couple of weeks on Noel. It's not my father that passed away. It's not my mother that passed away. Being a Liverpool fan, there's something about it, you know. You feel like we're all family. You don't, these players walk past you in the street and wouldn't even acknowledge it if you didn't stop them and say, can I get a picture or whatever, you know. We're nothing to them. But we just all have that in us, that being a Liverpool fan, you just feel every single emotion as if it's your emotion to feel. It was just absolutely magical. I spent the next day in work watching the 5-minute video of the goal from all different angles, and with Carragher's laugh in the background, and just wandering around, big happy head thinking, that actually happened. You know, it was just magical. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the club has a knack of creating moments, let's say.
I don't know how we can we don't have a fucking pacemaker, any of us in you, for fuck's sake.
I'm just glad that I didn't decide to support anybody else when I was a kid.
I wouldn't change it for a minute.
I would not rather be a supporter of any other club than Liverpool.
And then we're thinking, top four's back on, game on, boys. 2 more cup finals and we could be there. Go out against Burnley, who of course would like nothing more than to spoil the run and the party, but we beat them 3-0. Fair to say it was a tough game. Like, it wasn't an easy game. We had to battle for that one.
I was concerned. I'll hold me. I was very concerned after that first half. I was fucking. This is gonna be. We're not gonna break in. We're battering the door down. But Burnley's one of them teams. If there's anyone gonna stifle it, you know what I mean? Fucking hell, like.
And they had their chances.
Wood off the post, wasn't it, from the sideline? Oh,
yeah. But our man who has kind of reached legendary status this season, Nat Phillips.
God,
it's not Nat Phillips. It's Nathaniel Baresi, okay?
Baresi. Yeah.
The Great Wall of Bolton.
So then we go to the last game of the season, and it's Palace. And I'm thinking, a little bit of history there with Palace. Roy Hodgson retiring. Zaha obviously wants to put himself in the shop window. And I'm kind of thinking, this could be potentially iffy. And it's at Anfield. But
Benteke was coming into a bit of form as well.
Yeah. But we had the fans back. And as always, the fans never let the team down, and vice versa. It's safe to say, again, they had their chances again. But we took ours and they didn't. And then for large parts of the game, we controlled it heavily. Craig, what was you thinking on the last day of the season?
Yeah, remember, I actually gave you a buzz. I got out from work about the 50th minute.
Yeah.
The first thing that caught me eye was the fucking Chelsea scoreline, because it was like, holy shit, like, you know what I mean? Couldn't believe that. Obviously checked, we were 1-0 up. I was like, right, what's happening around? And my eyes were just fixated on that. I was like, I knew it was going to be a tough game for them, but I thought they'd get over the line. No disrespect to Villa. I thought Leicester, I didn't see that coming either. That was another just like, wow. We were 1-0 up and I could see there was another 40 minutes to go. I said, fuck's sake, like, Anfield, we haven't really killed anyone off, the way we should be doing. I gave you a call and you were all right, you said, we're all right, like, and when I got in, I just kind of said, there's 2-1 Chelsea, and we're still 1-0. I kind of was getting a bit fucking iffy about Chelsea coming back, and we're still only on the 1-0 mark. And then Tottenham just ended up putting Leicester to the sword, like literally.
Yeah, when Leicester went 1-0 up, no, we did the top four race that morning, and I did say to you, I said, look, if Villa could easily beat Chelsea and nobody'd be surprised. I said the one game to worry about is Leicester could easily go out and give Spurs a hiding 5 or 6-0, but then Spurs, who had been awful the week before, and I said it here, I says, no, they could easily go out and beat Leicester. And there was a time when Leicester went 1-0 up and Chelsea was still 0-0. We were in 5th place, and I was saying to myself, it was like, I've never felt anxiety in my life the way I did for that moment in time. Then Andros Townsend ran through on that, and I was saying to myself, why can Nat Phillips not run any faster? Missed by a whisker. And then the goal just settled the nerves. It was getting late into the game. We were still only 1-0. Then we got the second goal to kill it off, and yeah, just the scenes were having 10,000 fans back at Anfield. The kit man getting his little parade and his thank you as he left, and then Genie saying goodbye. But just that feel good fact that was back that day, the fans are going to be back next year. We're definitely going to be back next year. The signings that we look like we're going to make. Konate is already in. He's a right-sided Van Dijk. I'm telling you now, a lot of fans will
watch him.
A lot of fans will disagree. He didn't play a lot of football. He had that injury. I'm telling you now, when he plays beside Van Dijk next year, it's going to be very, very tough. They're going to need the horse a try to get through because
I watched him for the first time last night.
Yeah, he's outstanding. He is. He's still only young. He's still only young. But as I said, there's
I watched him for the under-21s.
There's talk of Patson Daka coming in, and there's a few whispers about Rafinha and Tielemans and all. Like, I am so excited for next season. I cannot wait.
There's no whispers about Rafinha at all. The bid has gone in. There's no messing around when it comes to Mike Edwards.
I watched Konate for the first time last night. against the Dutch under-21s. I've never seen Konate properly play. I don't really know anything about him. But what I noticed last night, he captained the side last night next to Upamecano. And I think Dean actually alluded on this before, and I can see where he's coming from. He's not going to be beaten aerial. He looks so strong and physical in the air. Not only is he 6'4", but he looks a demanding 6'4" and an imposing 6'4". His positioning was great last night. Reads the game very well, doesn't get sucked out of his position. And the balls were coming in and he was just mounting the header away, like physically posing himself in the air as well.
You know what has me so optimistic about is he's a right-sided centre-back, whereas Van Dijk is a left-sided. And I think if Van Dijk played on the right-hand side of a centre-back pair, and we would have went for Upamecano, Klopp and Michael Edwards and the scouts that are involved there, they know exactly what they're doing there. When you see, Niall, Konate is a right-sided Van Dijk. The guy, he's a couple of little tweaks that need to be made. He's still only very, very young, but I believe playing beside Virgil van Dijk, them two are going to put Stones and Diaz to shame next year.
And I suppose the selfish side for us as Liverpool fans is the fact that they went out last night means he can have a nice rest and a decent pre-season.
I've never been so happy to see a team get, well, other than United losing the UEFA Cup or Europa League final. But yeah, he played 90 minutes last night. He played very well. They lost. It is what it is. But yeah, he get a holiday now with the family. He'll be in early for pre-season, I believe, probably the week before the lads come in. He'll meet everybody, get familiarised. I believe the feel-good factor will be back this summer with the club. Jurgen is planning ahead with Mane and Salah. And if the names that were being mentioned with are, if they come to fruition, the league better fear us next year, because I think we needed a season like this as well. I do believe that the players needed this to realise, we weren't at the level we needed to be. They'll look back over the two previous seasons and see how phenomenal they were. A good rest now. I absolutely cannot wait. Not even just for going over to games, but I just cannot wait for next season to start already.
Yeah, I suppose we touched on the season lows and highs. I mean, obviously the lows, the Everton game was a low. The Real Madrid game over there was a low. The Villa game obviously was a kind of a low, but again, it was kind of what we believed would have been an isolated incident. In terms of the highs, I mean, I suppose you could pick any of the last sort of 8 to 10 games, but I mean, I suppose the highest one has to be Alisson, doesn't it, really? The Alisson goal.
I was going to say that moment of the season, I swear, I don't think that'll be, unless we win the league on the last day of the season next year with the last kick of the game, and it's an OG by Harry Maguire or something. I don't think we'll ever feel that again, ever.
Or another header by Alisson.
I didn't want to get too far-fetched.
A special mention as well for I think I touched on this, Niall, already. Reece Williams and Nat Phillips, 5th and 6th choice centre-halves at the club, deserve a special mention. They've gotten thrown in and they had to do a job against, seasoned Premier League teams week in, week out, and they bled for the badge, you know what I mean? And they know what it meant to us, and they meant what it means to Liverpool.
Just on them too. There's a picture of the two of them walking around the pitch at Anfield walking around the pitch after the Palace game last day of the season, and the two of them have their eyes busted open and the blood pouring down their faces and all. And I was like, whatever them two fellas do in their career after this season, I will never ever how grateful I am to them two. That will stick with me forever. I'm not joking it. That it was just to step in the toughest league under the sun against some of the best attacking players in the world. The two boys were absolutely colossal, and I commend the two of them. Whatever they do in their careers now, I will never ever stop appreciating it.
Yeah. I just remember Nat Phillips on the pitch and he's busted open and the ref is telling him he has to leave to get patched up. And he's just looking at the ref going, what's wrong with you?
Good look.
It's like something out of a horror movie. And he's just going to the ref, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Not a bother to him. We've obviously touched on the worst and best matches as well. Some of the points we've already touched on, external factors and stuff like that. Players in, players out. Craig, what's the thinking?
I just wanted to say about the game yesterday, I got to see OR last night as well. albeit in an under-21 game, but he looks very comfortable, similar to Thiago, very comfortable on the ball, takes the ball in tight spaces. I think he could be in number 10. I don't know if we are officially linked with him, but I think he could fit into the pocket very well behind the front line of the strikers or the front forward line. A player who I linked with, who I know very well from Inter Milan, is Nico Barella, and he is very similar to Verratti, Marco Verratti, similar style.
Very good.
Very, very good player, way ahead of his time. Italian kind of ground, came from Fiorentina to Inter Milan. Sadly, in a good way, obviously, if it's Liverpool, they are open, I think, to listening for players. Hakimi could be on his way to PSG. Barella, if it's a replacement for Wijnaldum, I think Barella could fit in there, get the ball moving, get it ticking, and still do a bit of defensive work as well. I would like to see, I don't know how you both lads feel, I would like to see a goal scorer midfielder come in though. Take a bit of pressure off the front line. If we do add to the front line, I would still like to see good squad depth added, and I would like to see a goal scoring threat from midfield also as well.
Yeah, I think, Dane, you probably want to take this up, but it's safe to say that we'll probably start the new season with a much improved bench.
Yeah. I sent we were chatting about it earlier on, and like, first and foremost, there's lads who are going to leave this summer who they never really cemented themselves in folklore as like someone you could rely on in the team. But there's lads who are going to leave, i.e. Divock Origi, who scored a Champions League final goal, 2 goals against Barcelona in the Champions League semi-final, the goal against Everton. Moments that will live with Liverpool fans forever. But fortunately, and I've said this for a long time, players like that aren't good enough to be like part of Liverpool. You know what I mean? We've moved on. Football isn't like how it used to be. You know what I mean? Where you had your strongest 11 and you had a bench where, if things weren't going too well, you threw people on in with the hope of they could nick something. We just feel like we didn't have that anymore. We brought Jota in. That's the main concern was always that with me. If things weren't going well on the pitch, we didn't have someone that could come in that be a plan B as such. And I just feel like this season this summer we need a mass clear though. I mentioned off a few names. I believe Genie is gone, Divock Origi is going to go, Shaqiri is going to go, Adrian is going to go, Karius. There was talk that we're actually looking at bringing him back to be our number 2. I believe that Kevin Kelleher is the man to step into that role. I think he's going to be outstanding in the future. The likes of Ben Woodburn, not that they stayed outside their welcome, but I think it was 4 years ago we scored a goal against Leeds in Anfield. 3 or 4 years ago, and there was talk about this could be the next Robbie Fowler. Many loan outs do you need before you realise that look, he needs to move on. Taiwo, I can't pronounce his surname. He looks like he's going to go. Harry Wilson is one where I'm thinking to myself, do we just take that punt on him and just give him a chance and see what he can do? I do think he's good enough to play in the Premier League, and I just feel like he never got a fair crack at the whip at Liverpool. The one I'm most excited for though was Harvey Elliott. What that lad can do with a ball is just it's like somebody has a controller in FIFA on pro level, but they've put player 2 onto neutral, so you're playing against another team, but there's nobody actually playing for them. He's just outstanding. He was sent off with hope that he'd pick up a bit of first team experience, and what he did at Blackburn last season exceeded everyone's expectations. If I'm Jurgen Klopp, I'm bringing him back. He is going to be a world beater. I cannot wait to see what he does in a Liverpool shirt. You have him coming off the bench. He's not going to come back into the first team and be thinking I should be starting every week. He knows under Klopp he's going to get that guidance he needs. You talk about you have him coming off the bench. We've bought this lad, the Ghanaian fellow. I believe he's going to be a part of the first team within 7 or 8 months. I've watched highlights of on YouTube when I heard that deal is going to be done. He's going to be phenomenal. As I said, there's talks of Tielemans coming in. There's talk of Rafinha coming in, Patson Dako coming in. These are the type of players where I said we needed last summer. That's where we missed a trick. We had that opportunity after winning the Champions League, and we won the league. And I'm saying to myself, finally, 30 years of a Liverpool fan, now I'm finally going to see the players coming in, they're going to take us to the next level, and we didn't. And I think that Klopp knows now that we missed the boat last summer, and this is the summer where we're going to see those players that are coming in to take us to the next level. So you think about it as well, Genie might be leaving. Curtis Jones, we know how good he is. You know what I mean? He's going to be outstanding. So I as I said about 1,000 times, I cannot wait for next season to start. We have Konate in. If we say we got Rafinha, Tielemans, Patson Dako, and maybe 3 or 4 squad players that come in, you know, next season, if you're a neutral fan, next season is the one where you want to be tuning in every single week, because there's going to be the top of the league next season is going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even mentioned Mbappe coming in yet. Imagine we land him as well.
I'm easing off because Ian, Wayne, Mark, and Darren, they just don't believe me that's going to happen. My sources in Nike, the Nike offices in France, have told me that Nike have already played a part in a major transfer that will be made for Liverpool this summer, and it's only one guy. You seen him talking to me last week. He was like, "It's happening, my friend. It's happening."
And we're gonna have a Jordan. We're gonna have an ex-Jordan jersey with Liverpool then, you know, and Mbappe.
It's gonna be great excitement, isn't it? Because I mean, we'll have Virgil returning as well. We'll have Joe Gomez coming back, Joel Matip. Obviously, we'll have Hendo in there with Thiago, you know, which is gonna be unbelievable. And then the boys will have gone off. So obviously the 3 front men plus Jota, we'll have a fully fit Jota back as well, who was kind of a little bit rushed back and then niggled an injury again and was kind of thrown back in again. But he'll be back as well. Firmino will bounce back and have a real good season. We'll see Salah, as we always do, being outstanding as he is. Mane is kind of the conundrum, really, isn't it, when you think about it, because he had such a poor season. By his
I give him the benefit of that.
Yeah,
I think he'll be back, and I think that'll hurt him.
We talked about it, Noel, when if you watch the documentary At the End of the Storm, he talks about the mental health side of things in football. And I did say that when we talked about it, that I believe that he's just having one of those seasons where he's overthinking everything. You know, he's thinking that we heard he got medicals to see was there anything physically wrong with him. I believe that next season, when I just think that the 3 boys, even like Mo, we still scored over 30 goals this season.
Yeah.
Everyone was slating Bobby Firmino. Go out and see the names of the players he scored more goals than this season. You know, you'd be very, very surprised.
Yeah.
Players that are being talked of as like in the top 15, 20 players in the world. Bobby Firmino outscored them this year. Yeah. I just think next season, everything, it's going to be like a slingshot.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's just going to come out of blocks lightning quick. Like Mo Salah is not going to stop scoring goals. Mane is going to be back to his best. I guarantee you all these things.
You know, on our day when we have our fully equipped 11, we can take City on, and there's no doubt about that.
Seen it before
and have done.
Like, we are a force to be reckoned with. Never mind City, we are a serious force to be reckoned with when we have a game full with them.
I think City this summer are going to go through a bit of a transition, to be honest.
But Sterling and Jesus, I think, will be gone. And, you know, do you come in knowing that your place isn't going to be cemented and the work you're going to have to do?
This could go one of 2 ways for City. They could get rid of the likes of Sterling and Jesus, and Aguero's gone, and they could go out and buy a Haaland, or they could go out and buy a Kane. You know, for me, it's a panic summer, because they genuinely thought they were going to win the Champions League this year and cement Guardiola's place as the greatest manager ever. For me, that's fucking blasphemy.
I agree.
Don't ever speak of that man's name in the same breath as Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, and Alex Ferguson. And that's coming from a Liverpool fan. Any real football fan knows how good Alex Ferguson was as a manager. To put Pep Guardiola where he's only ever gone where he's almost guaranteed success. No, only Man City fans can say that they think he's the greatest, because for me, going to Liverpool when Klopp did, that's a challenge. Taking over Man United now is a challenge. Going to Spurs is a challenge. Not going to Man City where you have 835 million to spend. And then for what, 5 years? No, I think this was the 9th year now where he's in the Champions League since he left Barcelona. Anyone that thinks he's the greatest manager ever can sting.
And the team that he had at Bayern Munich were the Germans in their prime. There was no excuse for them not to win the Champions League when he was there.
I agree with you on some points, but I do believe as well, just because the money's there doesn't necessarily bring the success. I mean, you still have to spend that money properly. And he has brought in great players like Laporte and Stones and Ruben Diaz and players like that. You still have to go find those players. They don't just naturally just show up. You have to there has to be a certain amount. I mean, Ruben Diaz has probably been, if not the top player, one of the best players in the Premier League this season. For a 22 or 23-year-old at centre-back to have that. Now, I know the Champions League final was such a disappointment for Man City as a club in total. But I do think sometimes, he does get a hard time because of the financial clout that's there. But just because your financial clout doesn't necessarily, give you a God-given right to anything. I mean, if you look at United have spent serious amounts of money in the last 8 years or 9 years or whatever it is, and it hasn't guaranteed them success, and they bought a lot of crap, and, things haven't worked out and stuff like that. So just because the money's there doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it right. And I think in Guardiola's case, a lot of the times he does get it right. He was tactically shown up the other day in the Champions League final by Tuchel. But I mean,
that's what I mean, Noel. That
can happen, Dean. That can just happen. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily.
That's my point. Yeah. He came to Champions League final and he shit the bed with one of the biggest decisions he needed to make tactically. I believe if they played Fernandinho or Rodri, they would have won the Champions League. You just can't go into you can't go into a game like that. Everyone's saying how tactically aware Tuchel has been since he came in at Chelsea. They got us so right. Throwing Sterling into a Champions League final when he doesn't even merit going to the Euros this summer.
Yeah,
James ate him up like he hadn't been fed in 3 or 4 weeks. He just got us so wrong, and that's the point I'm making. Yeah. When it came down to it, the tactical genius of this man, he made the biggest fuck up of his career.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. But to put it, I suppose to put it all down to that, I think is a bit harsh on him. You know what I mean? That would be my view. I think a lot of the times he really gets it right. I think since he's gone to Man City, the style of play that they've played and stuff like that, if you park the wealth that's there and the financial power of buying in players, again, I would stress, you still have to buy the right players. I mean, we've seen what happens at Barcelona when they've brought in players and it hasn't worked out and spent an awful lot of money. Look at Coutinho. Look at
Martin Braithwaite. Braithwaite is the number 9 at Barcelona, and nothing more needs to be said.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So just because you have a lot of money there doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it right, And I think as well, when you look at how wrong they got it in the Champions League, you also have to take hats off to Chelsea as well, who were absolutely outstanding. So
fully deserved, Chelsea. Fully deserved.
But again, we'll stick to our Liverpool show because this is our Liverpool show. Props to them.
This ain't the Chelsea role.
Yeah. Expectations for next season, boys. Quickly.
I think we have to be firing on all cylinders. I think we're good enough to fire on all cylinders. We will be back, and we'll show people what was being missed. When we have everyone back, and as we add a few good players to the squad and get a good bit of squad depth in, I want to go for everything and show people what they've been missing.
They're going to have a point to prove, aren't they?
I think we're going to go. I think we're going to be up there for the Champions League as well. I'm going to put that out there early. I think they're going to be serious hunger and desire in that team to put a lot of things right. A lot.
Yeah, well, I think they know they let themselves down badly against that Madrid side because that Madrid side wasn't really that good at all, Dane, expectations for the new season?
We're going to win the league. We're going to win the Champions League. We're going to win the FA Cup. We're going to win the League Cup. We're going to go and win the World Club Cup. We're going to win the Charity Shield. We're going to win the Fair Play Award. We're going to win everything now.
And just go invincible as well, yeah.
That's the boy.
We're going to win the Audi Cup. Get in.
Look, as I said, before Christmas, we only lost one league game. Even after losing Van Dijk. I thought we were outstanding on our day. I just want to see that consistency back again. I want to see lads firing on all cylinders. I want to see players coming in that are going to make the lads that were playing left back, right back, you know, someone come in, maybe Jordan Henderson thinks that, you know, my place could be up for grabs here. That's what just my expectations are, that we're going to go and make the right signings that are going to push everyone onto another level. Going to have a good rest this summer. I'm going to enjoy the Euros. We have the upper tier. We have the Euros podcast and stuff coming up like that. You know, we have a fancy league and all going on. Look, I'm just going to enjoy this summer, because I think even though we weren't players for Liverpool this season, I think as a fan we've all grown a few grey hairs and lost a few hairs. So I'm going to enjoy this summer and sit back and see who we sign. And think the closer the season gets, the more excited I'm getting, because I do believe that next season we will be back. And I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I just want to see us getting back playing that brand of football we can play. But I'm really excited for the fans back at Anfield as well. I can't wait to hear that crowd again as well, and to get over to a couple of games. And I'm looking forward to it. So I want us to put down a proper marker and a proper challenge in both the league and the Champions League. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the players back, like Virgil and stuff like that.
How crazy would it be if the fixtures come out and first day of the season, Liverpool and Man City?
As I always say when people say these things to me, I don't care who we draw in Champions League groups or rounds of whatever. I don't care who we draw or who we play in the league at any stage. When you're playing against Liverpool Football Club, it's Liverpool Football Club, and regardless of what the fixture is, we'll be up for it either way. But yeah, absolute pleasure, lads, having you on for this Liverpool season review, the first Shankly sessions on the upper tier on the Dynamo Podcast Network. As always, you know what to do. Head over to YouTube, support Irish podcasting. This has been your look back at Liverpool's season. Gents, pleasure as always.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.